You're listening to Beyond Wellness Radio, bringing you the cutting edge in health, biohacking, and sports performance. Stay up to date and listen anywhere and anytime on your computer, tablet, or smartphone by subscribing on iTunes. Catch your host, Dr. Justin Marchegiani, as he answers your burning health questions as well as interviews from world-renowned guest experts. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.
Hey there, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani. Welcome to Beyond Wellness Radio. Feel free and head over to beyondwellnessradio.com where you can access our full podcast transcriptions. While you're there, you can also sign up for our thyroid and female hormone video series. This series goes into the root cause of why your hormones are out of balance. While you're there, you can also schedule a functional medicine consult with Dr. Justin, myself, where we'll dig deeper into the root cause of your health challenges. Feel free and think of sharing this podcast with at least one person. This podcast grows by people sharing it. Sharing is caring. If you can think of one person that can benefit from this information, please feel free and share it. If you're enjoying the podcast, make sure you subscribe on iTunes. You can also click below the video or podcast where you'll see the iTunes review button and leave us a review. You can also sign up for the newsletter at beyondwellnessradio.com where you'll get updates before anyone else. Thank you so much and enjoy the show.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marchegiani here. I'm with Evan Brand. Today's podcast is going to be on hyperthyroid and Graves disease. So we're just finishing up the Thyroid Reset Summit. So make sure you head over to thyroid@resetsummit.com. Make sure you subscribe. We're going to give a little love to our high or hyperthyroid people. Again, very small percent, 95% are going to be Hashimoto's low thyroid. A lot of Graves people will eventually develop potential low thyroid, but we're going to go into that pathophysiology and we're going to break down what it is, causes, and what you can do about it to get better. But Evan, how are we doing today, man?
Hey, doing pretty well. We were just looking into some research. There's a lot of drugs, unfortunately, that affect the thyroid. So maybe we should start there because your average person who has symptoms, they may already be on some of these drugs. So let's go through this together and talk about what are things you're doing that may be messing up your thyroid. And that could be one of your big root causes. Acid blockers is one that I think is going to be most commonly used and abused. We know that when you reduce stomach acid, you're therefore reducing your ability to digest. So therefore, you're going to develop food intolerances because now your food's not digesting well. And then that causes leaky gut. And leaky gut is the doorway to create thyroid antibodies in the case of Hashimoto's or Graves. So to me, I would say PPIs, like even just people at home doing Tums and Pepto-Bismol and all that stuff is just garbage.
Yeah, one of the big things that you're going to see with these medications is you're going to lose the ability to digest protein optimally and ionize minerals optimally. And we know how important selenium is with autoimmune thyroid as well, more on the Hashimoto's hypothyroid side. But typically, anytime you have, even like Hashimoto's can still feel like hyperthyroid in the beginning because we're attacking that thyroid gland, hormones spilling out. So you can still have Hashimoto's, which will eventually develop and lead to low thyroid function, and it will feel like Graves in the beginning. Graves, we have antibodies that are affecting the thyroid receptor site antibodies that are going to be stimulating thyroid hormone production, thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin, and thyroid stimulating hormone receptor site antibodies are all increased. So we're stimulating more hormone production, where on the other side of the fence with like a lower thyroid function, Hashimoto's, or which is causing TPO, thyroid peroxidase antibodies, and thyroglobulin antibodies, you're attacking the gland, and then the gland spilling out thyroid hormone. Where on the Graves side, we're stimulating either the thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin, which is causing more thyroid to be made, or the thyroid receptor site antibodies, the TSH receptor site antibodies, which stimulate. So one we're attacking and spilling on the Hashi side can still feel like hyper. The one we're stimulating to make more. That's kind of the diverting line there.
Yeah, well, a couple things I need to point out. The lab test that you just referred to, like the TSH receptor antibodies, your average doctor and even endocrinologist, they don't always run these, correct?
Correct. Most of the time, they're going to just look at symptoms and they're going to see if your TSH is very low. And a lot of times, if you're taking actual thyroid hormone, you may be overdosed, you may be taking a little too much, or you may need to spread it out throughout the day. And that can also give a lot of false readings with lower TSH, because TSH is an inverse brain hormone. It goes low when thyroid goes high. So a lot of times they won't look at T4 and T3. They'll just look at TSH, right? So we have TSH is the brain hormone that talks to the thyroid to make T4. T4 is our more inactive thyroid hormone that gets converted to T3. So they won't typically look at T4 and T3 to see if they're high. They'll typically just make the assumption if TSH is low, then these have to be high. So a good doctor will actually look at TSH, T4, T3, and they'll look at all of the antibodies, because I've seen many times patients will have thyroid receptor site antibodies, but they may also have Hashimoto's antibodies too. And then once the Graves hyper-like symptoms are addressed, now they're left with other symptoms that may lead them down a hypothyroid path.
Yep, well said. So you got to get the proper labs done. That's important. If you're just trying to have a doctor adjust medication on TSH, you're not going to feel good.
100%. So you have to know what the pattern is. But if you can figure that out, that's going to give you a ton of information on how to move forward. And again, the underlying issue is autoimmunity, right? If you go to your conventional doc, they're typically, if they're very conventional minded, they're going to typically just recommend a radioactive thyroid, and they're going to ablate your thyroid. That's going to be the big thing. And again, they're concerned of a thyroid storm, which is essentially elevated amounts of thyroid hormone causing a stroke. That's really what they're looking at. So we understand that. We're trying to do our best to decrease that and curtail it. And we may want to look at that. We may want to stabilize you with methimazole or propylthiouracil. PTU is the medication, which basically block iodine uptake. That may be okay acutely by your conventional medical doctor. Typically, we're going to monitor, we're going to check your levels, TSH, T4, T3, and we'll look at all of the antibodies. And we're going to try to get things down naturally. Obviously, cutting out gluten is going to be important. Obviously, adding in certain nutrients, lithium, super helpful. L-carnitine at very high levels is very modulating. Blue flag is very good. Lemon balm or melissa is very good. So you really want to work with your natural medical doctor to kind of help get this under control. And of course, like there can be other underlying issues. The same issues that are causing Graves could be causing Hashimoto's as well. So just because we're talking a lot about Hashimoto's, we still have to look at the leaky gut. We still have to look at infections, the gut issues. We still have to look at a lot of the medications that you mentioned. Let's go over all those medications to make sure we can at least connect those dots.
Yeah, I was looking at some statistics. The acid blocking drugs, there are over 170 million prescriptions in the U.S. alone for acid blockers. So, I mean, you take a U.S. population of 300 to 400 million people, that's basically half of the population is on acid blocking medication. So those are all bad. You know, Prilosec, Prevacid, Nexiums, Dexalins, Protonix. There's tons here. And then, of course, there's the over-the-counter stuff. A lot of those are over-the-counter. Oral contraceptives, those are in here too, because those are increasing your thyroxine binding globulin, your TBG, and that's going to lower your free thyroid hormone. So we've seen that birth control pills cause weight gain. I would say that's probably the mechanism right there is affecting thyroid.
Yeah, so birth control is also going to have a major effect on your immune system because estrogen levels can skew out that CD8, CD4 immune balance. Your CD8 cells are your natural killer cells. Your CD4 cells are your helper cells. Estrogen levels can skew that. That's why women are 5 times more likely to develop an autoimmune condition compared to men. So the birth control pill aspect's a big one. It's going to obviously create more estrogen dominance. Progesterone is really important for making thyroid hormone. So that can kind of skew more of a hypothyroid setting. But of course, just having the immune system more imbalanced can be a big issue. Now, the big issues here on the Graves side is they may want to ablate your thyroid with radioactive iodine or a thyroidectomy faster than you're comfortable with. So my whole thing is, let's not get on the thyroid meds or the radioactive iodine or the thyroidectomy first unless your doctor is very concerned of a thyroid storm. Then maybe we go on the medications first, but at least get ruled out by your conventional doc to make sure you're good and work on getting the diet dialed in. A good paleo template, cutting out all the inflammatory foods is going to be big. Managing the stress, the sleep, managing the blood sugar with good healthy proteins and fats, and not going longer than 4 or 5 hours without eating. So if you're doing a lot of intermittent fasting, that may be too stressful on your blood sugar and on your immune system. You got to get your adrenals also looked at, and then got to cut out all the pesticides and the GMOs and the gluten. And then the big thing after that is calm down the inflammation. So we may use things like resveratrol or curcumin or glutathione and vitamin D to modulate the immune system. We're also going to go work on getting the gut addressed and looked at. We'll also work on getting the adrenals looked at as well.
Yep. So back to the medications, a few more to go over here. So things that contain fluoride, there's a ton of them. I didn't realize, honestly, how many of these drugs have fluoride in them. Your acid blockers, your anxiety, depression, OCD drugs like Prozac, Lexapro, Celexa, Paxil, Diflucan, which is an antifungal drug, Cipro, Levaquin, Avelox. These are the fluoroquinolone family of antibiotics. They often use them for UTIs, which are just terrible. Justin and I can fix this using herbs, and it works just fine. Celebrex, used for pain. Lipitor, used to lower cholesterol. These all contain fluoride, and these can affect your uptake of iodine into the thyroid, and therefore you're going to be in bad shape if you have fluoride-containing drugs in your body, and you have fluoride toothpaste, and you have fluoride in your tap water. Then, I mean, fluoride was even used to treat hyperthyroidism. We know in the literature, a treatment for overactive thyroid or hyperthyroid, fluoride was used to suppress the thyroid. Even just 1 milligram a day was enough to shut down the thyroid. And so in terms of fluoridated communities, like here in Kentucky, they do fluoridate the water. I'm looking at just a piece of literature here. The average adult who is drinking fluoridated water is ingesting between 1.6 and 6.6 milligrams of fluoride per day. Remember, it only took 1 milligram in the research to lower the hyperthyroidism. So I would say part of our hypothyroid epidemic is the tap water. So that's why I filter fluoride, and I know you do too.
100%. It's a big immune stressor. It can also pinch hit and affect the halides, where the thyroid hormone binds and is synthesized, right? We know iodine's a halide, very important for making and synthesizing thyroid hormone. So we don't want to be clogging up those receptor sites either. That's important. We also know high amounts of iodine can stimulate autoimmunity, right? Populations where iodine has been added to salt or into the food supply, you see more autoimmunity. Now, there are some people that will actually use high dose iodine to shut down the thyroid. So if there's a Graves issue going on, we can do super high doses of iodine, upwards of 5, 10, 15 milligrams of iodine. I typically don't recommend that. There are doctors that do. Dr. Jonathan Wright's talked about it many times, but basically you have these various effects where, like the Wolff-Chaikoff and the Jod-Basedow effect are effects where high amounts of iodine can cause a low or high thyroid function. Like the Wolff-Chaikoff effect is where you give so much and it can shut down iodine getting into the thyroid, and that lack of iodine going to that sodium iodine symporter can decrease thyroid function. But then there's the opposite, where if you don't get enough, you can have this Jod-Basedow phenomenon where you can have hyperthyroid. So in general, that's one thing that's out there. I'm just putting it out there because people have talked about it, but I typically will stay more with the dietary strategies, the anti-inflammatory nutrients, the blood sugar support, and really cut out all of the inflammatory foods and use some of the nutrients to modulate thyroid function, right? The herbs, the blue flag, the melissa, the lemon balm, which is essentially the same thing, the carnitine, the lithium,
Motherwort.
Things.
I would add motherwort in there too. Mm-hmm. We've seen, there's some thyroid support blends out there that have motherwort in it. I just happened to come across motherwort on my own when I was having heart palpitations, when I had those cavitations, those infections in my jawbone. The motherwort calmed it down. So if you look up like motherwort thyroid, you'll see a lot of cool stuff. Now, let's go back to the labs real quick, just so people understand. So if they're going to their doctor or their endocrinologist and they're just not running the labs they want, we're wanting them to add a few things, right? We want them to have the TSI on there, the thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin. And then I've seen another one called TSII, but is that the same thing? It's just referenced differently between Quest and LabCorp, maybe?
So TSI is probably thyroid stimulating immunoglobulin.
Yeah. And then I've seen one called TSII, and I don't know if maybe that's just the way they wrote it down, but it was the same thing.
Yeah, it's probably just the same thing. Like, for instance, you have thyroid peroxidase, TPO.
Yep.
TPO antibodies. But then there's also another one called microsomal antibodies. Microsomal antibodies are the same thing as TPO, right? So you may not know that. So a lot of times medicine has ways of saying the same thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's the same thing as just TSI.
It looks like it is. Okay, so we want to do our TSI. We want to do our TPO antibody, our
thyroid,
TG.
TPO antibody, and we want to run our thyroid globulin antibody, TG antibody, and we also want to run our thyroid stimulating hormone receptor site antibody. Run all 4 of those. That way you get a total window on what's going on, and then don't guess. Don't just run TSH and see, oh, my TSH is low, right? I must have Graves. Look at TSH. Look at T4 free in total. Look at T3 free in total. And that way you have a full kind of complement of what's going on. You know exactly what's up. And then also get a window into how your adrenals are doing.
Yeah, you have to. I mean, you did a great talk on your thyroid summit with Dan Kalish about mitochondrial function and how people look at thyroid and mitochondria as separate, but really mitochondria and thyroid are one and the same. And so by fixing and supporting mitochondrial health, by removing toxins, getting rid of infections, increasing detoxification, getting out heavy metals, getting out mold, all the things you need to do to fix mitochondria, that improves thyroid function as well. And you all kind of made the distinction that, look, people are trying to treat these as 2 separate things. You go to a thyroid specialist and they don't look at the mitochondria when really they have to fix the thyroid. You got to fix mitochondria. So that's part of the puzzle too. And you and I measure that looking on the urine organic acid test. There's a whole section dedicated to mitochondria that we can look at. And the good news is you can track this and you can see, wow, look here. This is where you were 6 months ago. Now we detoxed you, fix your gut infections. Now look at your mitochondria. And then, of course, your thyroid numbers are going to improve too. Maybe you can speak on that for a minute. How many times we've just fixed everything else and then the thyroid magically gets better just as a byproduct of doing the other functional medicine pieces?
Yeah. So in general, when you have hyperthyroid or Graves, a lot of times Hashimoto's can feel like Graves. So can high cortisol and high catecholamine. So a lot of people, they may never really know that they have a hyperthyroid or Graves issue. They may just feel symptoms and assume that. So in functional medicine world, we know there are a lot of body systems that may be out of balance, that may give hyperthyroid symptoms, right? The excessive sweating, the irritability, the anxiety, the heart palpitations, insomnia, difficulty sleeping. These are all hyperthyroid symptoms. But when you have Hashimoto flares, they can also feel very similar. So we're looking at the diet. We're looking at the leaky gut. We know how the leaky gut and the gastrointestinal permeability can have a major effect on stimulating the immune system. So, of course, we're checking off the gut. We're going through the 6 R's, removing the bad foods, replacing the enzymes and acids, repairing the gut lining and the hormones, right? Adrenal thyroid female or adrenal thyroid male, ATM or ATF. Removing the infections. We know things like blasto, Lyme, such as Borrelia burgdorferi, Yersinia enterolytica, H. pylori. These all can have negative effects on the immune system. We're repopulating, reinoculating good bacteria, and then we're retesting. So we're checking off the adrenals. We're checking off the thyroid nutrients. We understand the medications that can be contraindicated. We're making sure digestion's good, and we're making sure the gut permeability is good. We're making sure the anti-inflammatory support's on track to calm things down. So we're looking at it not system-wise, but system-wise. Not symptom, but system. We hear this, we look at the symptoms and we trace them upstream. Our brain isn't, symptom, what drug or supplement can I give to fix that? Hey, let's trace it upstream and what nutrients and lifestyle changes and what support can we give to help modulate and support those systems back to healing.
Well said. And I don't want to skip over what you said because it was very important. So I'm going to say it in a different way. The H. pylori infection, you mentioned blasto, you mentioned Lyme and co-infections. This could be your root cause. So if you keep going down this thyroid rabbit hole, you're taking thyroid supplements, you're going to the endocrinologist, etc. Justin and I have seen it literally hundreds, if not thousands of times now, where we'll have someone with an H. pylori infection or parasites, we'll take care of that infection, get it gone, and then we can retest the blood and we'll see antibody numbers drop hundreds of points just by working on the gut. We didn't even touch thyroid. We're like, yep, I hear you. I know it's a thyroid symptom. Let's fix the gut. Boom. Look at the blood work and the thyroid is fixed. I mean, it's a miracle.
100%. That's why you want to understand the mechanism and just know, okay, great, you got a thyroidectomy, you got your thyroid taken out, but that underlying mechanism is still in motion. Will other organs be affected? Was the gut the root cause? And is that still in motion? Was there an adrenal issue there? Was there a blood sugar issue there? So a lot of people, they may get their thyroid ripped out, they may get their thyroid ablated and think that the underlying issue has been addressed, but a lot of times it's still ignored. So first thing first is don't do irreparable damage to your thyroid first. If you have to get on a medication short term because you're seeing your doctor and they're concerned of a thyroid storm, fine, but do your best to get everything else going right thereafter. Do your best to not cause any irreparable damage to start. And then find a good functional medicine doc where you can start getting to the root issue with all these other issues, right? With the anti-inflammatory nutrients and everything else.
Yeah, we've seen people where they get the thyroid removed or they get it ablated or they get it, they get tons of radiation on it to basically, they call it killing or shutting down the thyroid. And then guess what? Then they pop up with Sjogren's or they pop up with rheumatoid arthritis or ulcerative colitis or Crohn's or some other autoimmune disease. And you made the point. Okay, yeah, you took out, I'll try to make a car analogy because you're good at those. So yeah, you just took the light bulb out that said the check engine light was on. You just pulled out the light bulb, but you still didn't fix why the light bulb came on in the first place. So like thyroid's gone. There's still a leaky gut. There's still H. pylori. There's still parasites. Boom. Now you've got rheumatoid arthritis and you don't know why. Then what do? I mean, you go get on like immune drugs or pain drugs for the pain in your knees, but really it could still just be the gut. So it's just sad. It's really frustrating how many people end up getting multiple autoimmune diseases. And it's just a drug for that thyroid, a drug for the knee pain, a drug for the back, a drug for the gut. You have irritable bowel disease or you have IBS. Here's the antispasmodic drug. You're depressed. Here's the antidepressant. You still didn't get the root cause addressed.
Exactly. And I really wanted to do today's video because a lot of people on the Thyroid Reset Summit were like, hey, but we didn't really focus enough on the Graves, the hyperthyroid aspect. We talked about it. I mentioned it with Jack Wolfson and a couple other people, but the major mechanisms are still the same. There may be more nutrients that we want to talk about acutely, like I mentioned with the carnitine and the lithium orotate and some of these nutrients like the melissa and the motherwort and the blue flag. And the omega-3s, which can be used palliatively to get things under control. But the same mechanism with the gut, with the adrenals, with the infections, with the blood sugar, and then looking at those medications, right? We have the acid blockers are most common. What are some other ones outside of the acid blockers? I want to make sure we have that list for everyone.
Yeah, it was the acid blockers, the blood pressure drugs. Was blood pressure on the list? I don't think it was, but blood pressure drugs are bad in their own right. So we'll talk about that another day. Fluoride-containing drugs. So that was all of the acid reflux drugs, anxiety, depression, like Prozac, Lexapro, Celexa, Paxil, diflucan for yeast infections, Cipro, Levaquin, Celebrex, Lipitor. It was the cholesterol drugs I had in my brain. Birth control, hormone replacement using oral estrogens. You talked about those. The PPIs, we talked about those. I think that was it. Oh, there was another one on here, Accutane. Accutane, which is often used for the acne problems. Those also have been in the research shown to affect thyroid. I don't know the exact mechanism. All we know is that there has been significant changes in TSH levels. But it's sort of this.
I would say the Accutane, it's probably affecting vitamin A because it's a vitamin A analog, and vitamin A is really important for the thyroid hormone and the thyroid receptor site. So it's probably affecting vitamin A.
Okay.
And then the other medication that's similar to the blood pressure is the amiodarone, which is a anti-arrhythmia medication for the heart, and that's known to have some side effects on the hyper side. You mentioned the fluoride, which is really important. The birth control pills are another big one. The proton pump inhibitors are another big one. And interferon, which is commonly given for pain issues and for a lot of other, immune suppression type of issues, can easily drive that as well. You mentioned the Accutane already. Iodine as well, right? Iodine can cause the Jod-Basedow phenomenon, which is it causes hyperthyroid. But there's also the Wolff-Chaikoff effect where you give tons of iodine where it can suppress that sodium iodine symporter, so it decreases iodination. So it's a double-edged sword, so be careful on it. Some docs use high iodine to treat. Some say iodine can actually cause it as well. Jod-Basedow on the hyper, Wolff-Chaikoff on the hypo.
Yeah, that was it. I think we could wrap it up. We did have one question on here.
Oh, the other last medication we wanted to hit was Botox. That's another big one. Yeah. That's the botulinum toxin, which could, typically used for wrinkles or for headaches. I think that's the Allergan medication, and that's known to have some connections with hyperthyroid and autoimmune stuff.
Not good. Not good. So long story short, drugs are bad. And yes, they have a place. Yes, they have a role. Yes, there may be a time where you need drugs. But in general, those are not things you want to be on long term, because you can't just stay on an antidepressant if it's going to affect your thyroid, because then you're going to get depressed because your thyroid shuts down or your thyroid goes overactive. It's crazy.
Yeah. First thing is, if you know or you think you have Graves, at least get your conventional MD to look at it and to watch over you while you work with someone else. We just want to make sure there's no thyroid storm that could happen. There's no stroke. We want to take away those major side effects, while at the same time, we don't go to something excessively drastic and get your thyroid removed or ablated early on when there's time to save it and be on top of it. But just keep your MD or your endocrinologist in the loop so they're monitoring you and watching what's going on.
Yep. Well said.
Anything else you want to add, Evan?
No, that was it. Get the testing done. We talked about the blood. Get the stool looked at. Look at your infections. Look at the urine. Get your mitochondria evaluated. Look for candida. Look for bacteria. Look for mold. Look for Lyme. Look for co-infections. These are all things that could be in your bucket, so to speak. So we need to turn over every rock. You and I are never going to say all thyroid problems are caused by and point the finger. It's going to be a big shotgun approach. You can't just have like a one bullet approach. I'm going to shoot this one bad guy and that's the thyroid problem and that goes away. No, it doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Exactly. And then just to kind of highlight some questions here, Barbara writes in, will hyperthyroid eventually deplete the thyroid and become hypo? It's possible. I mean, the hyper symptoms you feel from Hashimoto's, like I mentioned, is more the gland actually spilling out hormone, where in hyper Graves, where there's TSI and thyroid stimulating hormone receptor antibodies, think about it as a tired horse getting whipped. A little bit different, but I would imagine it's possible for sure that it could eventually lead to hypothyroid as well. My big concern is they start to develop Hashimoto's antibodies, and that starts to happen.
Well, you've seen both, right? Haven't you seen like TPO, TG antibodies and TSI or TSH antibodies all at the same time? Where technically
I've seen them all at the same time.
So you could say, oh, you have Hashimoto's and Graves.
Yeah,
that's an
exactly.
Place to be.
Yep, exactly. And then someone writes in a lithium mechanism for Graves. Lithium orotate, remember that's the supplement, has a modulation effect on thyroid hormone. So it can modulate it. So if it's high, it can kind of bring it down. It almost has like an adaptogenic effect. So does carnitine. Now we also have the medication lithium, which is actually known to cause, that's lithium carbonate. That's actually known to cause hypothyroid. That can decrease thyroid hormone production. So a little bit different there. Lithium orotate, it's a modulator. It's going to be less strong as the medication. Lithium carbonate is typically given for bipolar, FYI. And then Ahmet writes in, isn't iodine anti-infective, so it could help the thyroid? I thought it is antibacterial. Yeah, I mean, you can give iodine at correct doses, at lower doses, and you don't have this Jod-based or Wolff-Chaikoff effect. Jod's causing the high, Wolff's causing the low, but also it can stimulate autoimmunity. Lots of studies in populations where iodine's been added, whether it's to the salt or to the food supply, and you see a lot higher, level of incidence for Hashimoto's.
Paul says you're looking fresh today, Dr. J. I agree.
Oh, I appreciate it. I got this new skincare line that I am doing. I had a perioral dermatitis the last year. It really sucked. I got it because I was just mixing too many essential oils and mixing too much crap and rubbing it on my face, and it screwed up my immune system and my skin. And any woman that has perioral, women get it a lot of times from birth control pills, and they can get it from like pregnancy and hormone fluctuations. It's a little bit different of a mechanism. I was able to find a skincare line that's catered to it, because perioral is a type of rosacea. And I found a skincare line that was great. And I just have to use zinc oxide and titanium oxide on my skin every day to prevent any sun from hitting it. Because once you have a little perioral, 3 to 5 minutes of sun can flare it up. It's the most annoyingest thing ever. So annoying. So the thing is, you go around, you're used to getting a little bit of sun and it's fine, right? No problem. it's nice to get a little bit of sun. But then when you have this perioral thing that comes in, you're like, where did this come from? Where's this flare coming from? So I found a great skincare line, and I'm just using a little bit more higher quality zinc-based SPF to protect it. So I'll do a podcast with the owners of this company in the next month or so. I want to give it a little bit more time, but really happy with the results so far.
Yeah, I was going to say, I want to hear how the experiment plays out longer, and then, yeah, let's hear about it. Another question.
I got a protocol lined up. So any guys or gals that have that perioral dermatitis issue, we're going to be talking about it and doing some podcasts on this topic later on.
That's exciting, man. Great job. Great job. I'm glad to hear progress. Another question was on phytotherapy for thyroid. I don't know if that's the same thing, but that did stem the thought of doing the
Vitamin D?
The lasers.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Isabella Wentz has talked about this a lot, using lasers to help kind of modulate thyroid function. I think it can be great to decrease inflammation. I'm not sure if it would stimulate the thyroid. I would want to be careful with that.
Yeah.
But if there's inflammation, I think it could help modulate it for sure.
Okay. Yeah, that's something I haven't looked into much. I've known Isabella's talked about it, and she's done a good job of documenting it. There's been some other people out there talking about I think they call it like an LLDT, like a low level, maybe it's LLLT, low level laser therapy, something like that.
Yeah, there are a lot of people that talk about pulsed electromagnetic frequency therapy, which can help increase stem cells, which can help obviously repair the gland too. So there's that, like the PEMF. There's various devices at home, like the Allowave. These various devices that can help with that pulsed electromagnetic frequency.
Here's my thought on it, though. Somebody could go buy this PEMF machine, and then they disregard focusing on their gut, and then they don't get better.
Yeah, so like that's all palliative stuff, right?
Yeah.
So we kind of have our foundational things, and then we kind of have our more palliative things that are in the branches. They're not necessarily in the limbs or the roots or the trunk of the tree. So we focus on the trunk, the limbs, the branches first, and then the leaves all at the end. So we want to make sure that these are more like in the leaves type of palliative options.
Yeah, well said. I'll read Paul's question here. For someone in their 20s with borderline Hashimoto's, how fast can that deteriorate over time if not correctly addressed? I don't know what you would define as borderline Hashimoto's. Would you just say that TPO antibodies may be a little bit up? Or
yeah, I'd say TPOs are maybe, in the typically like LabCorp is like anything greater than 33 for TPO or greater than 1 for thyroglobulin is going to be high, right? So maybe a thyroglobulin between 2 and 5, maybe a TPO between, 35 and 50 or 100. That's going to be a mild Hashimoto's. That's kind of where I sit personally. So just keep it under control with, maximizing selenium, maximizing zinc, good quality, multi that will get you some extra nutrients on top of a great diet, right? This is never replaces a good diet. And then that's going to give you a good foundational nutrients to keep everything in check.
Look at that. You just whip out a multivitamin pack out of nowhere, and here's your multi.
I know. Hey, man, you got to practice what you preach,
You do.
Absolutely.
You do. Here's another question. Unrelated. All right. If it's unrelated, we'll cover it just because we're having fun, but we got to wrap up here. What do you think of water fasting for long periods of time, 24 to 72 hours every so often? I don't know why water fasting is becoming like so cool.
Yeah.
Everybody asked about this.
Here's the deal. So I kind of draw a line, right? There are people that they're not healthy, right? And they want to get healthier. Now, there's no magic in not eating anything, but what not eating something could do for someone if they're eating a lot of food allergens or they have a lot of gut inflammation caused by their food, it can help obviously decrease the inflammation. It can really help the gut. But the problem is you got to actually eat something because now your body is missing those nutrients. So for a short-term effect, it can be helpful, but you got to get the right foods in and the nutrition in that's not going to irritate your gut. Now, if you're just a regular person that's already really healthy and doing well, fine, that's great. That can give your gut a good chance to heal or rest or just kind of upregulate cellular autophagy, help improve mTOR, right? All these different, what do they call it? These different anti-aging pathways. I have 3 on my phone that I typed out last night when I was looking at a couple of articles. There's 2 major pathways that improve as they fast. There's the AMPK pathway, that as you lower insulin levels, that gets upregulated, good anti-aging pathway. The other one is mTOR, okay? mTOR. That's the one that you're going to, when you modify protein and fast, that also improves. And then you have the sirtuins. And sirtuins improve with resveratrol and NADH and basically mitochondrial nutrients. So sirtuin, upregulation of the mitochondria. And then you have the mTOR and you have the AMP, you have the AMPK. So those are going to be the big pathways that we're going to benefit through fasting.
My only fear is that if someone is already so nutrient deprived, I mean, you and I look at trace minerals and micronutrients and B vitamins and C vitamins and zinc and all that. If someone's already so deficient, this guy who asked the question is the same guy who said he's got borderline Hashimoto, so therefore he's probably got some gut issues going on. I mean, just right there, it already sounds like
you got to work with your doctor. Got to work with your doctor and figure out, make sure it works. Make sure it's the right next step. A lot of people, it may not be the right next step.
Yeah, if you don't have the foundations in order and there's an infection going on, you probably don't want to do that.
Totally. Moon Goddess writes in, hey doctors, I'm slowly coming off my methimazole. So that's the iodine blocking medication we talked about for Graves. Have a small pituitary tumor and also a growth in my adrenal glands. Feel like I get surges. TSH is low. T4 and T3 are good. So you got to be really careful, because if you have a pituitary signaling issue, it may be overstimulating the thyroid through TSH, or it may be overstimulating the adrenals through ACTH. So you really got to be careful with that. Make sure that your endocrinologist is monitoring you and watching you and giving you the okay to come off that. Because when we have tumors, that's a different ball game, because you have basically the tumor is upregulating those signals to make more hormone that may be necessary. So make sure your endocrinologist is watching it and monitoring it and giving you the thumbs up.
Ahmed here. What do you think about nutritional yeast? It has selenium and lots of nutritional benefits for thyroid.
I think it can be helpful. Dr. Berg's a big fan of nutritional yeast. Again, if you're on a good quality multi or a good quality B vitamin that'll have high quality yeast derived B vitamins, that's fine too.
Yep. Paul, how's your mold issue, Evan? Feeling better? Yes. As long as I live in the bubble, I'm feeling pretty good. I went to a sporting goods store last night with my wife, and I felt weird as soon as we walked in. I was like, there's no way I feel weird this quickly. And we looked up at the ceiling, and the ceiling was covered. All the ceiling tiles were covered in water damage. It was white and brown and yellow and green. It was disgusting. So I held my breath, and I literally ran out of the store. So if I go in places like that, it could set me back for multiple days. So yeah, you just kind of have to, I kind of say that I'm on a tightrope, and I'm working on my own protocol too. Just like Justin's working on skin, I'm working on mold, developing things. Because here's the deal with the tightrope of detox. If you don't detox enough, because you recirculate 95% of your bile, mycotoxins are in there, you're only making 5% new bile because it's energy intensive. So when you're trying to use binders, if you use too little binders, you feel bad. If you use too many binders, you feel bad. So it's literally a tightrope that you're on. But we'll do more shows on that soon once I have some updated test results to see how I'm doing.
Excellent. Well, Thyroid Summit's coming to a close here, y'all. So there'll be a replay coming up. So make sure you get subscribed on there, thyroidresetsummit.com. Get access to it. You're also going to get my first quarter or so of my new book coming out. First 77 pages. The book will be out on Amazon very soon. I'll do an audio version very soon as well, so you can hear my voice read it to you as well. So
Perfect.
I'm excited for that. Make sure you get access.
It's a great book. So yes, definitely go register for the event and support Justin. You can buy the talks, you can get the transcriptions. It's something you should definitely have in your library. You can educate yourself and educate others. We've got a lot of thyroid problems in the world, so hopefully we can help to prevent a few issues, a few people from getting their thyroid cut out, etc.
Well, this is great. I'll add this interview as a compendium to the Thyroid Reset Summit on Graves. So we'll talk to the people at Health Talks, and we'll have this kind of added for people that want that extra Graves hyperthyroid support. So this is wonderful.
Great. Well, cool. Well, if you want to reach out to Justin, you can. His website is justinhealth.com. You can schedule a consult anywhere around the world. We send lab tests across the globe. So if we need to get you in the U.S., great. If you're out of the U.S., we can help you there too. If you want to reach out to me, you can do that at evanbrand.com. And make sure you stay tuned, because we'll be back next week for more.
Excellent, Evan. Great chatting with you. You have an awesome day, man. Talk to you soon.
See ya. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Got a question for Dr. J? Go to beyondwellnessradio.com and click the questions button. Then tune in to hear the answer. Also, if you like the show, click below to review us on iTunes. For more Beyond Wellness Radio, go to beyondwellnessradio.com.